Shakespeare, the Biography, by Peter Ackroyd, read by Simon Callow. Volume 1, Aspiring Spirit. William Shakespeare is popularly supposed to have been born on the 23rd of April, 1564, or St. George's Day. The date may in fact have been the 21st of April or the 22nd of April, but the coincidence of the national festival is at least appropriate. When he emerged from the womb into the world of time, with the assistance of a midwife, an infant of the 16th century was washed and then swaddled by being wrapped tightly in soft cloth. Then he was carried downstairs in order to be presented to the father. After this ritual greeting, he was taken back to the birth chamber, still warm and dark, where he was laid beside the mother. She was meant to draw to her all the diseases from the child, before her infant was put in a cradle. A small portion of butter and honey was usually placed in the baby's mouth. It was the custom in Warwickshire to give the suckling child hare's brains reduced to jelly. The date of his christening, unlike that of his birth, is exactly known. Shakespeare was baptized in the Church of the Holy Trinity in Stratford on Wednesday the 26th of April, 1564. In the register of that church, John Girdle, the minister, has written Gulielmus Filius Johannes Shakespeare. The infant was carried by its father from the birthplace in Henley Street down the High Street and Church Street into the church itself. The mother was never present at the baptism. John Shakespeare and his newborn son would have been accompanied by the godparents, who were otherwise known as godsips or gossips. On this occasion the godfather was William Smith, a haberdasher and neighbour in Henley Street, and the godmothers were probably close female relatives. The name of the infant was given before he was dipped in the font, and the sign of the cross marked upon its forehead. At the font, the gossips were exhorted to make sure that William Shakespeare heard sermons and learned the creed as well as the Lord's Prayer in the English tongue. After the baptism, a piece of white linen cloth was placed on the head of the child, and remained there until the mother had been churched, or purified. It was called the chrism cloth, and if the infant died within a month, was used as a shroud. The ceremony of the Reformed Anglican faith in the time of Elizabeth still favoured the presentation of apostle spoons or christening shirts to the infant, given by the gossips, and the consumption of a christening cake in celebration. They were, after all, celebrating the saving of young William Shakespeare for eternity. Of his earthly life there was much less certainty. In the 16th century the mortality of the newly born was high. 9% died within a week of birth, and a further 11% before they were a month old. In the decade of Shakespeare's own birth, there were in Stratford 62.8 average annual baptisms and 42.8 average annual child burials. You had to be tough, or from a relatively prosperous family, to survive the odds. It is likely that Shakespeare had both of these advantages. The first test of his vigour came only 3 months after his birth. In the parish register of the 11th of July, 1564, beside the record of the burial of a weaver's apprentice from the High Street, Girdle wrote, Hic incipit pestis. Here begins the plague. In a period of 6 months, some 237 residents of Stratford died, more than a tenth of its population. A family of 4 expired on the same side of Henley Street as the Shakespeares. But the Shakespeares survived. It seems likely that the mother and her newborn son escaped to her old family home in the neighbouring hamlet of Wilmcote, and stayed there until the peril had passed. The parents, if not the child, suffered fear and trembling. They had already lost 2 daughters, both of whom had died in earliest infancy, and the care devoted to their firstborn son must have been close and intense. Such children tend to be confident and resilient in later life. They feel themselves to be in some sense blessed and protected from the hardships of the world. It is perhaps worth remarking that Shakespeare never contracted the plague that often raged through London. But we can also see the lineaments of that fortunate son in the character of the land from which he came. Warwickshire was often described as primeval, and contours of ancient time can indeed be glimpsed in the lie of this territory and its now denuded hills. It has also been depicted as the heart or the navel of England, with the clear implication that Shakespeare himself embodies some central national worth. The countryside around Stratford was divided into 2 swathes. To the north lay the forest of Arden, the remains of the ancient forest that covered the Midlands. These tracts were known as the Wealden. The notion of the forest may suggest
Sample complete. Ready to continue?